Hey lads, my name is Skychrew and welcome to Minecraft Game Theory by MatPat. MatPat made another episode of Game Theory. This time it's Minecraft. I know it's absurd to say it and it's not making sense. The frozen Nether, which will never happen, obviously, because there's lava in there. Yes, in Minecraft the ice doesn't melt, because that's why they made the boats. Wait. It's just the developers didn't add it in the game. This is an option, but in reality, if it's real life, the ice doesn't melt. So yeah. Game Theory, Minecraft, The Frozen Nether by MatPat Game Theory. Shout out to the membership of the channel for $2.99. You'll be able to be joined the membership button. It's up to you. I don't know. I keep saying it and it just doesn't have any results. So up to you. It's optional. Shout out to the membership of the channel, Tatsiverb, Slothy, SFM, and to Ian Chung. You guys rock. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the channel. I hope you're still well. Thank you.
At this point, I think everyone's familiar with the Nether.
Yes!
Minecraft's version of HE double hockey sticks.
Hell.
A separate closed dimension with a bedrock ceiling and floors covered in fire and lava. Not exactly the most inviting of holiday destinations,
Yeah.
but hey, at least the weather's consistent. But while the conditions have
True.
always been dangerous, this channel's favorite Minecraft characters, the ancient builders, seem to have thought that this was an ideal location to build big parts of their civilization. Why though?
Why?
Always felt like I was missing something there.
Yeah.
What was so appealing about hellfire and brimstone that they thought that this
Exactly.
is going to be the perfect escape from all the horrors that they created in the overworld? Well, my friends, after my last theory about the piglin invasion in Minecraft Legends, I started digging, and what I found absolutely floored me. Buckle
What?
up, because the reason for the Nether being such a hot commodity is gonna give you chills.
It's not gonna be cold. This, yeah. Do you see what
Hello,
I see?
Internet!
Do you
Welcome
see
to
what
Game
I
Theory,
see?
the piglin of the internet that'll offer you great content in exchange for a click of that subscribe button.
Same for me,
As I've already
subscribe,
mentioned,
please.
A couple months ago, we did a theory based on the upcoming Minecraft spin-off, Minecraft Legends, a real-time strategy game where we
I
unite
don't
the
care about
overworld
that.
in an effort to defeat the piglin invasion coming from the Nether.
Yeah,
Looks like a
but
really
I
interesting
don't care
game.
much.
I'm actually incredibly excited to see it come out. But we deduced that the lore being presented to us in the trailers of that game
No.
might not be the actual truth. Feels like that's been happening a lot recently. Well, the
The
game
lore.
presents us as the heroes. The piglins are actually invading because the ancient builders invaded them first, destroying their home in the Nether. In that episode, we pointed to the ancient builders doing what they always do, over-farming resources, which eventually lowers the biodiversity of the area, making resources much harder to find, and thereby making it harder for the piglins to survive. So what
Yeah.
did they do to cause such a shift in biodiversity? Well, dear theorists, I once again pulled out my trusty theory pickaxe, started digging, and I struck diamond. Not really, that would actually be incredibly impressive given that they don't spawn in the Nether, but what I did find was
yeah.
Mojang dropping little hints that give us a window into the early years of the Nether. Before the Nether wars of old, before the arrival of the ancient builders, was a world that looked very, very different. It wasn't filled with lava and barren wastelands, but instead was a
What?
thriving ecosystem that contained the most valuable thing to sustaining life, water. That's right, there used to be water in the Nether, and I
What?
can prove it to you. And not only that,
Prove
I'm gonna
to me.
explain why it ain't
Prove.
there anymore. Put on your biggest, puffiest coat, theorists. We're going into the Nether, and it's gonna get
Let's go.
cold. Now, I understand
Let's
that
go.
the idea of water existing in the Nether is a huge claim. You
Ah,
can't
yeah.
even place the stuff. It literally evaporates if you even try
yeah.
to pour it out. But while this is certainly what happens if we go to the Nether now, I'm not convinced that it's always been that way. And the reason for
sure?
that is 2020's Nether update. I'm telling you guys, this update is the one that just keeps on giving us new lore. The Nether update completely overhauled the Nether as we knew it, adding
Yeah?
new mobs like the aforementioned piglins, new blocks like ancient debris and soul soil, and a whopping 4 new biomes to explore.
Whoa.
One of which is going to be of great importance to us today, the Basalt Deltas. This biome is
Why?
definitely one of the most striking things you're going to come across in the
Yeah.
Nether. When you arrive, you'll notice the eerily quiet ambience and the large towers of the new basalt
That's
blocks
cool, though.
poking out from the sea of lava. But what you might not know is that those large pillars of volcanic rock weren't something formed
It's
out of the
sea
mines
salt.
of Mojang, but rather you can find these things
It's
out
a
in the real
sea
world.
salt.
Basalt is a substance that makes up around 90%
Obvious.
of all volcanic rock found on Earth. When
I
molten
knew about
lava
it before.
erupts from a volcano and
that
flows
doesn't
across
mean
the surface,
anything.
it immediately starts to cool. If the lava has a high level of silica and cools quickly, it becomes a black volcanic glass that you might know as obsidian. On the other
Yeah.
hand, if there are low levels of silica, like in 90% of lava, then the rapid cooling is going to create something else, basalt. It might not appear as interesting as obsidian, but this rapid cooling can sometimes cause the outer parts of the rock to contract, causing them to crack in hexagonal patterns, which creates these beautiful tower-like columns.
Which is
You find
weird.
These structures actually all over the world, including giant Causeway in the UK, Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and now they're just in the Nether too. But basalt works slightly differently in the game than it does in the real world. While basalt blocks can certainly spawn naturally in the basalt deltas and the Soul Sand Valley, if you want to make your own basalt, you need 3 ingredients. Lava, makes sense, soul soil, a material that's only found in the Soul Sand Valley, and blue ice, which is basically the Russian nesting doll of Minecraft ices. You take 9 ice blocks and craft them together to create packed ice. You take 9 blocks of packed ice and then craft them together to get super packed ice. Oh wait, never mind, it is just blue ice. Super packed ice though, a lot more fun. Also, can I just say, Mojang, your ice is already blue. It was always blue. Naming aside, this means that you need a total of 81 blocks of ice just to make 1 block of blue ice. Point being, they're really cold, which I suppose makes sense when real-life basalt towers are made from rapidly cooling lava. So good job, developers. Way to know your science. In the game, the only place cold enough for blue ice to form is on the bottom of icebergs in the frozen ocean. You can also find it stored in snowy tundra village houses and in the ancient cities in a structure literally called the Icebox. The main thing you'll notice is that none of these locations are the Nether. There is 0 ice of any kind in the Nether. It is simply too warm of an environment for it to make sense. So the question becomes, how could basalt form in the Nether if there was never blue ice to be found there? But what if there was blue ice in the Nether at one point in time? Way before we ever made it there. What if the Nether had an ice age?
Whoa! Woo!
Ice Age.
Who's up for round 2?
Nobody. Nobody wanted round 2 or 3
or
4
or 5.
There's a 6th movie in development?
What?
Mind to talk. This is our 33rd
I didn't know
Minecraft
about that.
theory. In fact, if you didn't realize we had so much
What the
Minecraft
fuck?
content,
First
it probably
news
means
to
you're
me?
not subscribed. So
I didn't
let's
know
go ahead
what
and do that right now. We
there's
always
more
have the
gonna be?
hottest Minecraft theories in town. Definitely one of the cooler Minecraft channels out there. And don't
Ice
worry, there are
Age.
plenty more bad puns
My grandmother
waiting for you
likes
on the
Ice
other
Age
side
1,
of that
but that's
subscribe
it.
button. Y'all subscribe? Cool!
Imagine.
Let's take a
You
look
and
at
my
the
grandmother
evidence
watches
that
Ice
shows
Age,
that
but
the
only
Nether
first part,
went
only
through an
first
ice
part.
age,
The other
not
parts are-
the cringy movie type either. Besides these massive basalt biomes, we actually see evidence of an ice age in one of the other ingredients for basalt, soul soil. Take a look at the texture of the block, the
Soul
waves
soil.
and streaks on its surface. Other dirt and sands in the game don't have textures like this, but there are places in the real world that do, and that's thanks to glaciers. While glaciers are made of solid ice, they actually flow just like a river of water would, just much slower. This movement of ice ends up shredding and tearing up the solid land it travels over, leaving behind sediments and streaks in the surface, just like we see in the streaky texture of the soul soil and the sedimentary nature of soul sand. Large blocks of blue ice cutting through the landscape of soul soil, hitting the lava, creating the basalt that we see in the soul sand valleys, and more impressively, the basalt deltas. But the Nether's covered in lava. How on earth could ice have ever formed there? I hear you and I understand, but in real life, there is a precedent for this. Iceland. Iceland is essentially one giant volcano that's been constantly spewing lava onto its surface. And despite the myth that Greenland is icy and Iceland is green, Iceland is in fact very icy. An icy place can absolutely be volcanic. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. What makes a place volcanic is whether magma from Earth's center can make its way to the surface and erupt as lava. Meanwhile, something like a cold climate is determined by a variety of other factors. Things that are completely separate from whether or not there is a volcano
When you
in
hear
this
snow
location.
outside, you
Considering
go
the Nether's a closed-off system with no sky, it seems very clear that ice was plausible here. The Nether wasn't always so hot. Instead, it was cooler, maybe even frozen.
That's
and
cool,
just like
though.
we've always suspected with Mars, if
Hey,
there's ice, that
cool.
means water.
That's
and
cool.
water means life.
That's so much
Something that
cool.
we know has to be true thanks to the fossils that we find throughout the
Oh,
Nether.
yeah, these
massive
shits.
rib-like structures are found
What
all
is that
around
even
the Soul
thing?
Sand Valley, and they can get as high as 7 blocks tall. Considering a block in Minecraft is 1 meter tall, that means that a single rib from this creature is 7 meters, or nearly 23 feet tall.
That's high.
one tasty and expensive rack of ribs. And that's just talking about the rib. Imagine the kind of creature that would be big enough to have a rib that large. If the Nether was once icy, these creatures were likely some gigantic mammoth-like mobs that roamed free in the landscape. But obviously something changed along the way. How could the Nether go from being a balanced, biodiverse environment with giant mobs to a lava-filled wasteland where only
Which is weird to
skeletons
me,
remain?
as well.
This is where our good guy heroes, the ancient builders, come into play. They would have escaped to the Nether looking for resources and ways to defeat the wither that they'd created up on the surface. And so they would have seen all the luscious environments, the materials, and they would have farmed them heavily. We know that the ancient cities used polished basalt, so they probably mined a lot of blue ice in order to create it on their own. And sure, taking the only real source of water ain't the greatest move in the world, but that's not what really caused the downfall of the Nether. What caused the downfall was the ancient builders moving in the first place.
Everyone?
See, I suspect the ancient builders didn't just bring themselves, they brought their technology with them. Their crafting tables, their torches and fires, their animal herds, their smelting. And those things all release gases. CO2 from creating fires and burning fossil fuels, to all the gases that release when you smelt metal, to methane from cow farms.
Yeah,
all
but
of them
Nether is
are
unlimited
greenhouse
almost.
gases,
Well,
because
30
their
million
presence
blocks.
in the atmosphere
That's too much
causes it to warm significantly,
That's
much
too
like
much.
the air inside of a greenhouse is warm. And unlike in the overworld, where these gases can escape out into the atmosphere, I suspect in the closed ecosystem of the Nether, these gases began to collect. They had nowhere else to go. They were stuck forever under the bedrock ceiling. Bit by bit, the Nether started to heat up. The ice, which was already being farmed away by the builders, began to melt faster and faster until one day it was just gone. All the water had dried up. You were suddenly left with a hot series of caves, fires spontaneously
Yeah, but
bursting
lava
out of the
forms
ground.
not
the
from
large
the
animals
heat.
that once roamed
Where
there in
did
peace
lava
began to
form
die
from?
out due to asphyxiation. There just wasn't enough fresh air to go around, and soon the builders would die too. The only ones able to survive were those who found another escape route, a new portal. Gotta admit though, this is a pretty impressive new record for the ancient builders. They just doomed the Nether without even trying. By the time Steve walks in from the overworld, millennia have passed and the gases have long since dissipated. But the damage has been done. Animals are gone. Plants are mostly gone. Even many of the builders have died, with only the walking skeletons left behind. The once icy glacial temperature of the Nether has become a fiery place of death as the temperatures have risen to unsustainable levels. Desperate to hold on, the ancient builders created ice rooms in an attempt to keep what remaining stores they had. But it was no use. It was way too little, way too late. This is how the ancient builders wrecked the biodiversity of the Nether, and no amount of gold is ever going to be able to fix the piglins' home. In the end, Minecraft is revealing itself to be more and more a story of overuse of the land, disrespect for its resources, a warning to those coming later about the dangers of pollution. The story of Minecraft is one of protecting the world that you've been given, living in harmony with it rather than fighting against it, overusing it, milking it dry. Mojang has been secretly hinting to us the truth of the Nether for over 2 years with all of these updates, but only now is it all starting to come together. Only now is it making sense. No wonder the piglins are so mad. Their home was ruined. The builders turned the thermostat up to inhumane degrees and then left it all to burn. Now that they're attacking, they're just bringing the fight to someone else's turf. So the next time you think about the Nether, remember this hot place's secretly cool origins. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And if you like this theory, you can always check out our last Minecraft theory, where we talked about how the ancient builders completely wrecked the end. Seriously, there's nothing that these guys aren't able to ruin. Link to that video is on the left.
This I saw, yeah. Damn, I actually believe this theory. Like, I don't believe usually in MatPat's theory, but this time it makes sense more. It makes more sense because, yeah, the biggest proof is that there is a material of sea salt in the Nether that dried up, yeah. It makes sense, actually, damn. Anyway, lads, I mean, the theory is true. That's kind of sad. It used to be a normal world, but it turned out to be bad. Oh, shit. Oh, sorry. Anyway, let's hope you enjoyed this reaction to the video. Please leave a like, subscribe, share your kin, the Prince Boss channel, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Subscribe. Please subscribe.
Found on Earth. When molten lava erupts from a volcano and flows across the surface, it immediately starts to cool. If the lava has a high level of silica and cools quickly, it becomes a black volcanic glass that you might know as obsidian. On the other hand, if there are low levels of silica, like in 90% of lava, then the rapid cooling is going to create something else, basalt. It might not appear as interesting as obsidian, but this rapid cooling can sometimes cause